code 858-15754-883, followed by the pound sign. The board chair will instruct the participants on the appropriate time and manner for public comment during the meeting. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to welcome everybody here for this regular meeting, and we'll all rise, Tom, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have one other note to read. This is from the governor. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and state of emergency, on March 12, 2020, Governor Baker issued an executive order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. Pursuant to the order, public bodies are temporarily relieved from the open meeting law's requirements that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the bodies' deliberations through adequate and alternative means. And just so everybody knows, this meeting is being recorded. And Tom, we need a roll call to create to make sure there's a quorum.
Commissioner Trask? She might have stepped away. She has a baby with her. Commissioner Texera?
Yes.
Commissioner Carroll, I'm sorry. Many things going on.
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford?
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes, we do have a quorum. Have you heard from Janet, Tom?
Janet is on the call. But she has her grandchild with her. I can hear the grandchild crying, so she must have stepped away from the phone for a second.
Okay.
She's
And
juggling.
just so everybody knows, I'm sure you already know that every motion, we need a roll call vote at the end. We can't do it by a show of hands. It has to be a roll call for the records. And I just wanted to mention that Timothy Sullivan is the chair, Ernest Pettiford is the vice chair, Janet Trask is the member, David Texera is the treasurer, Carol Roberts is the assistant treasurer. And I'm sure everybody has got the agenda as follows. Item 1 is the roll call, we're already done. Item 2, Mr. Tebow, is the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of December 10th, 2020. Item A in your packet.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman and members of the board, I've had an opportunity to review the minutes. I have found them to be in order, and I recommend they be approved as written.
We need a motion from somebody.
A second.
Ernie, we need, David, David's gonna make the motion.
Okay.
David, you want the motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of December 10th, 2020 as written. A roll call.
In your second, Ernie?
I second it.
A motion has been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford. Motion is to approve the minutes of the special meeting of December 10th, 2020 as written. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Texera?
Yeah.
Commissioner Pettiford?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Trask, are you back?
Yes.
Yes. And Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 3, hearing of visitors. Let me read off a little bit about the hearing of visitors, and it's a small one. Any member of the public is invited to speak before the board. Visitors wishing to be heard will be allowed 3 minutes to speak on each subject. The board will take any issues under advisement and respond at a later date. Total time for hearing of visitors will be limited to 15 minutes per meeting. Are there any hearing of visitors?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see any visitors in the room.
Hearing none. Move on to item 4, correspondence. Mr. Tebow.
If there are two pieces of correspondence, one is we received a grant for $81,730. This is actually a grant that Mr. Hines had submitted a year and a half ago. And they just came through and have approved it. So it's great news. It'll purchase carbon monoxide detectors for a number of our apartments. So we'll be going through that, and that will come under Mr. Barry's department. The second correspondence is the proposed schedule. These are all the regular meetings for the Board of Commissioners. And we ask that you take a look at that. And if you know that you have conflicts, you know, if you could let us know, we'll work around those.
Any questions on the correspondence? I just have one on the meeting dates. Is this a final now that is presented at the meeting?
No, it's not final. So this is what your what are the things, Sue, that says when the meeting's going to be? I'm sorry, I'm losing my.
Oh, the bylaws.
The bylaws say you're going to have it on the fourth Thursday of every month. So that's what this is. If you have a conflict, we put it out there just so you can take a look at it. You'll know when they're scheduled, and just if something comes up, let us know and we'll work around that.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue.
Item 5, approval of the bills of the regular meeting of January 28, 2021. Item B in your packets, Commissioner Texera.
David, you're muted.
Mr. Chairman, I did had a chance to review the bill and I found everything to be in order, so I will make a motion. Number 5, I'll make a motion to approve the bill for the regular meeting of January 28, 2021 as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Carol Roberts. Motion is to approve the bills of the regular meeting of January 28, 2021 as written. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Commissioner Texera,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
and Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 6, acceptance of resignation from Jeffrey Mattson, Assistant Working Foreman. Item C in your packets, Mr. Tebow.
Sure. This is Mr. Mattson has decided to retire. Unfortunately, he was injured on the job in January, and he has decided that he would like to retire at this time. He will be missed. He was an assistant foreman. He has been with us since 2002, and I hope that his health is getting better. The only reason I mention his health because he put it in his letter of retirement.
I just wanted to mention, he had become a good friend of mine, and he was considered by the other maintenance guys as one of the good workers, knew what he was doing. And everybody seemed to look up to him. It's gonna be sorry to see him go.
Yes.
We need a motion, item 6.
make a motion that with regret, we hate to see Mr. Madison retire, but that comes at a time. You have to. All done.
And a second.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford, seconded by Commissioner Carol Roberts. motion is to accept with regret the resignation of Jeffrey Matson. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes, with regret.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
and Mr. Sullivan.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 7, approval of 2021 flat rate schedule. Item D in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
So this is an item that HUD allows people, when they go over a certain income, to stay at public housing at their model tenants is what they call them. And that's within a certain amount. They can't make so much money. But at that point, they are allowed to either pay 30% of their adjusted gross income or a flat rent. And the flat rent can be set at anywhere from the fair market rent to 85% of that. We have kept it at 85%. Again, most of our residents are much below these rents. And we do think that for the most part, these are good tenants. We're updating it, and you can see the schedule. It's based on the 2021 HUD fair market rents. FMR stands for fair market rents as determined by HUD. They list them down 0 through 5, and 85% of those numbers are in the 2001. So that's what we're looking to have on the schedule.
Just one, I don't know if it's a typo, Tom. Some of the rents are higher and some of the rents are lower than they were. Have you noticed that?
Yes, no, it's not a typo. The HUD uses this random dialing. It's a very complicated process to determine rents, and they come up with some screwy numbers. I mean, this is a public meeting, I hate saying it, but they do. And to recognize that, they allow housing authorities some leeway when they adopt it. As you know, at times on our fair market rents for the Section 8 program, we're adopting that at 110%. We're saying HUD's numbers are not good. Or sometimes we go as low as 90%. They'll allow us to go in that range. Here, they allow us to go to 85%. But your observation is correct. It's the numbers provided by a bunch of statisticians in Washington.
Just one thing, will that be posted somewhere that people can read that?
Yes, it will be. It will also go out to all the asset managers, and when they do the recertifications, if someone is their rent would be higher than this, they're given a form that says, which rent would you like? Would you like the flat rent, or would you like 30%, which would be higher? And you know what most people choose? All people choose.
Okay. We need a motion, item 7.
Make a motion to approve the 2021 flat rent schedule as presented for the Brockton Housing Authority Federal Public Housing.
second it,
A motion's been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford. The motion is to approve 2021 flat rent schedule as presented for Brockton Housing Authority's federal public housing. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford. Did I already ask Commissioner Pettiford?
yes, you did.
I apologize. Commissioner Texera
Yes.
and Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes. Motion carries. Unanimous. Item 8, review of financial comparatives, Exhibit E in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
If I could ask Mr. Pacious to speak on this, please.
Sure. So what you have in front of you is the comparatives for the period ending November 30th. So this is 11 months of our fiscal year. Basically, all the programs are running as we had anticipated. The state program is getting better. And that's due to the fact that Mr. Tebow and Mr. DeChristopher were able to get $178,000 from the state for vacancy repairs. So that helped the state program, but there's still some work to do on that state program. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any.
Not a question, Mr. Patience, but as a comment, it's a real good job. Every one of them is surplus. This is the best
Oh, thank
report
you.
from you in a long time. Nice
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
I do want to say that we know that the surpluses are there. The rainy days are coming, guys. Okay, so you know why you put the money in the bank, because there are going to be times when they short us. We've seen that in 2007, 8, and 9. We saw it in really terrible times in the early 90s. So we will. It's going well. We'll keep you appraised of it. But I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see some short-funded budgets. By the way, it always happens under a Democrat. So it's a reverse. So Republicans, we get high budgets. The Democrats, I don't know why. I can't understand it.
Yeah.
We need a motion, item 8.
Motion to accept the financial comparatives for the period ending November the 30th, 2020, and put on file.
Second it.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Carol Roberts, seconded by Commissioner David Texera. Motion is to accept the financial comparatives for the period ending November 30, 2020, and put on file. Any questions on the motion? Or comments? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes.
and Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Item 9, award of contract VCT and ceramic floor tile installers, Exhibit F in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
If I could ask Mr. Christopher to speak on this item, please.
Yes, this is a contract with VCT and ceramic floor tile installers. On November 23rd, 2020, the Brockton Housing Authority advertised for qualified VCT tile and ceramic tile installers for work that cannot be performed by our current staff. The work was to be awarded to 3 responsive and responsible bidders that met the qualifications set in the bid pack. This is a 3-year contract not to exceed the limitation amount of $150,000 over the duration of the contract. On December 9th, 2020, the submission deadline, we received 1 bid as reflected in the bid tally sheet. The low responsive bidder was Capital Carpet and Flooring of Wilmington, Mass. And if you have been in our high rises, this is the same company that did all the VCT tile on all the floors through capital improvements, and they are a reputable company. So I would recommend them.
If I can just add a little bit onto that. So as you know, we had an audit finding that we had done. We used a flooring company and we didn't go out to bid. One of the reasons, we need to go out to bid. That's what it says. But one of the disadvantages to go out to bid is that the paperwork and the contracts are so onerous, most small and moderate sized companies will not respond. And that's what's happened here. Capital's very good. We've had great, Chris will tell you that he's had great success with them, but smaller and moderate sized companies won't respond because the paperwork is so great. So we're complying, but that's why only 1 company responded.
Okay.
We need a motion, item 9.
Okay. Motion to award a 3-year contract in the amount not to exceed $150,000 to Capital Carpet and Flooring of Wilmington, Mass. for VCT and ceramic floor tile installation.
second it,
A motion has been made by Commissioner Carol Roberts, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettifat. The motion is to award a 3-year contract in the amount not to exceed $150,000 to Capital Carpet and Flooring of Wilmington, Mass. For VCT and ceramic floor tile installation. And just to add to the record, it's not only the only bid, but it's the lowest bid. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes,
you guys keep moving around on me. Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettifat,
yes,
and Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes. Item 10, award of contract, hardwood floor refinishes and repairs, Exhibit G in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
If I could ask Mr. DeChristopher to speak on this also?
Okay, again, this is a contract for hardwood floor refinishes and repairs. On November 23rd, 2020, the Brockton Housing Authority advertised for qualified hardwood floor refinishing and repairs for hardwood floors that cannot be performed by the current staff. This work was to be awarded to 3 responsive and responsible bidders that met the qualifications set in the bid pack. This is a 3-year contract not to exceed a limitation amount of $150,000 over the duration of the contract. On December 9th, 2020, the submission deadline, we received 1 bid as reflected on the bid tally sheet. The low responsive bidder was Capital Carpet and Flooring of Wilmington, Mass. And again, for the same reasons, they were a reputable company, and I do recommend that we go with them.
Vinnie, can I ask one question, please?
Sure.
Were they the only bidder again?
No, if you look in your bid pack, there were, well, they were the only bid that submitted a bid. There were other people that picked up bid packs, but they're the only one that responded.
And that's the same bid as the ceramic tile?
It's
I mean, the same company?
same company, yes, different contract, same contract, same company.
Okay.
Mr.
We
Chairman,
need a motion, item 10?
can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Texera.
Yes. The contract before this one I'm just looking at the number. It says normally our rate, it's 139.04. This one is 99.41. Overtime rate, it's 214.35. And this one is 158.57. Weekly hour rate double time, 214.35. On this one is 197. And hourly rate double time, it's 214.35. On this one is 198.87. Why there's a difference? That's my question. I want to know why the hourly difference. If you look on the contract before this one versus this one, it was done, I guess it was done on the date 12/9/2020 at the same, just about the same time, but the hourly rate is different. Why is that?
The only thing I don't really know for sure, the only reason I could say is that it's just the 2 different types of work. One's, between ceramic tile and the VCT, they must have a set rate and just a different for hardwood flooring. I don't have an explanation for that.
Chris, can you speak to that?
I'm gonna, I don't know exactly, but it's most likely is the hourly rate that's in the specification, because these are the state wages. So the state wages for hardwood flooring is typically much less than the VCT and ceramic. VCT and ceramic are all union. So that's why their number's so much higher probably too. And there's not much hardwood refinishing done. That's why too.
If I can speak to that, just for a point of information, on these contracts, as Chris said, we tell the vendors what the wage will be, that they have to pay their staff that amount of money, a certain amount of money, and then they get a certain amount of allowable markup on it. It's extremely expensive. Massachusetts is one of the most expensive places to do public bidding. So for the board, when we were wrong. We violated this procurement rule, and we were told that during our audit. This will be significantly more expensive, but we are doing it the right way, and we will continue to do it in accordance with the rules that come along with the money we get.
Vinnie, one question, please.
Yes,
Would you say we're lucky to have Capital Carpet and Flooring bid on these?
I think, yeah, yes, from what I've seen their work, I would, yeah.
It's a decent company. You've seen them work before?
I have seen them work. I watched them do all the work when Capital was doing all the high rises.
Oh, okay.
They've been doing work with the authority since I got here in '01. They do large scale. They do very good work. 99.99% of the guys are, great workers.
Okay. We need a motion, item 10,
Motion
and a
toward,
second.
motion toward a 3 years contract for the amount not to exceed $150,000 to the Capital Carpet and Flooring of Wilmington, Mass. For hardwood flooring refinish and repair.
Second,
Commissioner Trask seconded.
Was that Janet Trask?
Yes,
A motion has been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Janet Trask. Motion is to award a 3-year contract for the amount not to exceed $150,000 to Capital Carpet and Flooring of Wilmington, Mass. For hardwood flooring refinishing and repairs. Any questions on the motion? I have one more, Vinnie.
Yeah.
That's $50,000 per year for 3
Yes,
years. Is that
yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay. A roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes. Motion carries. Unanimous. Item 11. Approval of extension of contract audit services. Exhibit H in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
If I could ask Mr. Pacius to speak on this, please.
Sure. So what you have in front of you is the extension of our auditing firm's contract, Rector, Reader, and Lofton. That firm's been auditing Brockton's financial statements for quite some time. And basically all this is just an extension for 1 year or for one audit. The price is still the same as it has been since 2014. So if you have any questions on it, I'd be more than happy to answer any.
We need a motion, item 11, from anybody?
11.
Signed in the January 12th, 2015 request for proposals, RFP, and extend the contract with Rector, Reader, and Lawson to include the FY 2020 audit of the Brockton Housing Authority's financial statements for the amount of $44,700.
And a second?
I'll second it.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Janet Trask, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford. Motion is to exercise a year-to-year extension outlined in January 12th, 2015, request for proposals, RFP, and extend the contract with Rector, Reader, and Lofton to include fiscal year 2020 audit of the Brockton Housing Authority's financial statements for the amount of $44,700. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 12, Executive Director's Report, Exhibit I in your packets.
I'll
Mr.
speak on,
Tebow?
I'm sorry. I'll speak on this briefly. We're still not at full force because of the virus. One of the things, we did roll it back with our maintenance men doing emergencies only now. And the reason we're doing that is as you know, the virus in the city of Brockton has skyrocketed. Hopefully it's plateaued. Our fear is that a maintenance person could be positive, not know it for 4 or 5 days, and then be in, 30, 40 apartments, and then we'd have to notify those people. So we'll be watching the governor's direction on that. I watch how the rates in the city go on a daily basis. The Brockton Police provide updates on how many of our residents have COVID, and it's disturbingly high. We're still going through our organizational review. We'll have some reports on that, and I hope to have them speaking to the board members shortly. Rent collections, I told the treasurer and vice treasurer that we're down about 100,000. Well, we're up in rents owed to the housing authority, about $100,000 from last year to this year. We're spending a lot of time and money on legal fees on trying to get people to understand that they need to pay their rent, that there's no moratorium on rent payment, and there are too many people who feel that, and it's going to cause issues with them and their long-term history, and we don't want that to happen. FEMA, Mr. Pacious has done a wonderful job. We got 66,000 approved. I just heard under the new president's order that they're going to be more liberal, and hopefully we'll get the other $40,000 or so approved coming in. That will really help our state program. I have a listing of the capital projects if you have anything on that, and then we'll be speaking about the repositioning later on. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
We need a motion, item 12.
Motion to accept the executive director report of January 28, 2020, and put it on file.
Second,
A motion has been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Janet Trask. Motion is to accept the executive director's report for January 28, 2021, and put on file. Any questions on the motion? Tom, I had a couple of questions on the Campello, but I'll wait till the end on the
Sure, please. Thank you.
roll call, Mr. Tebow.
Commissioner Trask,
yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
yes,
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
and Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 13. Approval of mobility accounts receivable write-offs. Exhibit J in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
If I could ask Mr. Pacious to speak on this, please.
Sure. So the mobility program is when a Section 8 voucher holder from another housing authority moves into Brockton. And the Brockton Housing Authority then receives a portion of the administrative fee for handling the management of the voucher, as well as the housing assistance payment that it sends to the Section 8 vouchers landlord. Sometimes what happens is that the other housing authority feels that their records are complete, and there might be a difference as to what we have on our end, and so there's a lot of back and forth between our housing authority and the other housing authority. But the thing to remember is that the balances that we're asking to write off are well over 15 years old. The staff have been going back and forth with these housing authorities for that amount of time plus more to try to resolve any of the issues. Basically what happens is that sometimes a housing authority can be non-responsive, or the person that the Brockton employee was working with is no longer there. There's a whole myriad of issues that can happen. But again, these balances are very old, and we just want to take them off the books to make things current.
Mr. Pacious,
Yes,
can these ever be collected if we take them off the rolls right now?
they could be collected, but it's very unlikely given the age of these. In some instances, we've even gone to the executive director of the housing authority, and they haven't been as responsive as we would like. So
If I could just tag on to that, we have spoken to HUD about this. What they have recommended is just to absorb the voucher, make it ours, and then HUD would send the money directly to us, and that's what we're doing now. This was 15 years ago. There are 2 or 3 housing authorities that were very problematic, but we have solved most of those issues through using that method.
So Tom, by doing it that way, this will never happen again? Is that what they're saying?
I shouldn't say, sometimes there's just a discrepancy where we say that they owe us $20, they say they owe us 10. And, that can happen. But yes, the solution is to absorb it into ours and then requisition the HAP funds and the administrative funds, and it wipes it off the books.
Okay, we need a motion, item 13.
Motion to approve the mobility account receivable write-offs in the amount of $26,146 from the mobility program as present.
Second,
A motion has been made by Commissioner Carol Roberts, seconded by Commissioner Janet Trask. Motion is to approve the mobility accounts receivable write-offs in the amount of $26,146 even from the mobility program as presented. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 14, award of contract, boiler and hot water replacement in Ward Congregated House, Project 667-5, Exhibit K in your packets. Mr. Tebow.
Before I turn it over to Mr. Barry, this is a desperately needed project. I have to give him a tremendous amount of credit. DHCD was doing their normal, slow bureaucratic role, and he did not allow that to happen. So I'm extremely happy to be presenting it to the board and on behalf of the residents up at the M Ward Congregate House. If I could ask Mr. Barry to speak to it.
Good afternoon. Yes, back on December 10th, we went out to bid for plumbers to replace the boilers. We then, actually received bids on December 10th, with bids ranging from $72,488 to $114,300. 5 bids were received. With bids received, and it was determined that the authority could accept the alternate number 1, which was the replacement of the hot water storage tank. With the acceptance of alternate 1, Gliana Plumbing and Heating Services, the apparent low, with a bid of $80,400 was deemed to be responsive and responsible. We recommended award of a contract to Galena Plumbing and Heating Incorporated of 31 Staff Road, Saugus, Mass, in the amount of $80,400 for fish number 044091 and Ward House boiler and domestic water replacement. Excuse me.
Just one question, Chris. To replace a boiler for $80,000 seems a lot of money. Seems awful high.
Honestly, it actually is compared to what we did at Crescent Court, but it's because of it's a state project, and that's with the dollar. So we're gonna actually replace 2 boilers. We're gonna remove 3 boilers, put in 2 new boilers with a new storage tank. So it does seem, it is definitely high. We're replacing all the boilers at Crescent Court through ABCD for $570,000. So that's 12, that's 22, 23 boilers, I believe it is, and hot water for $570 as opposed to this being 80. And again, it comes down to what the prevailing wages are. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it is same boilers, same manufacturer, same tanks, so.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Christopher,
Commissioner Texera.
yes, I just want to ask, so it's double what we pay for Crescent Court for the same boiler?
So the boilers for 500, the boilers, we could do basically 7 buildings at Crescent Court. But we went through ABCD, we're getting actually those boilers for nothing because ABCD's doing it and it's a non-prevailing wage. That's why. One of them is a set wages from the state. And then there's no wages, just whatever the going rate is for a plumber in a team, for that company. That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
Just one final question, Tom.
Yep.
This is for you. The Bamsi's in half that building now. Are they picking up half the tab, or how does that work?
No,
We own the building?
we're the landlord. That 1 month, one year's rent will pay for this. They pay us $77,000 a year in rent for that. But no, this is ours. It's actually, it comes through DHCD, but it's our cost. So as a landlord, we're responsible for the major systems of the building.
The reason I asked, Chris, because I need a boiler at my house, and I'm
You
thinking
don't want
about,
this one.
I almost fell over when I see the price.
These are big boilers, obviously, because there's only 2 of them. They supply the heat and hot water for that entire
Okay.
building. So they are good sized boilers.
We need a motion, item 14.
I make a motion to award a contract in the amount of $80,400 to Gliona Plumbing and Heating Services Incorporated of August, Mass. for the boiler and domestic hot water replacement at Anwood Congregate House, Project 67-5.
Second,
A motion has been made by Commissioner Janet Trask, seconded by Commissioner Carol Roberts. Motion is to award a contract in the amount of $80,400 to Giona Plumbing and Heating Incorporated of Saugus, Mass. for the boiler and domestic hot water replacement at Anwood Congregate House, Project 667-5. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Commissioner Texera,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
yes,
and Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 15, approval of a change order number 1, fire alarm system replacement, Bel Air Heights, project 24-2, Exhibit L in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
I just wanted, before I turn it over to Mr. Barry, to let you know, we're asking the board to allow us to pay them $93,000 less than you had approved. So, Mr. Barry, if you could explain that.
Thank you. Yeah, again, during the fire alarm replacement at Bel Air Heights, we had a number of items that, first of all, the authority requested to add to the project. And then the biggest item that you'll find is that there's a excavation number the electrician carried, because we were originally going to replace all the conduits from building to building to building to connect the fire alarm system into the community center. The electrician was able to stake everything other than one of the buildings across the street. So thereby taking and eliminating $93,000 from his budget. So that's basically where the big chunk of money comes through. There are a number of items on here. If anyone has any questions, there's items such as the COVID-19. We bid this out prior to the COVID coming in and then being requirements to go forward with work. We have gas detectors that we put into 4 buildings that were not put in because we did the gas detection system when we did the boiler system. 4 of the buildings were done through maintenance and they did not put a detection system in there. So we went forward and put those into those 4 buildings while we're in there. There was a bunch of the LB in boxes on the side of the buildings. When they started to open them up, they were starting to fall apart. So that again was just a number of items like that that we took and went forward to replace them as we were going along. I would recommend accepting change order number 1 in the amount of a negative $93,030.88 from Jupiter Electric of 142 B Lafayette Road Salisbury, Mass. For the 24-2 Bel Air Heights fire alarm replacement.
We need a motion, item 15.
Motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of negative of $93,000, $30.88 to the contract with Jubilee Electric Inc. of Salisbury, Mass. For the fire alarm system project at Bel Air Heights. Project 24-2.
Second it.
A motion has been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford. Motion is to approve change order number 1 in the amount of minus $93,030.88 to the contract with Juniper Electric Incorporated of Salisbury, Mass. For the fire alarm system project at Bel Air Heights, project 24-2. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous.
Good job.
Item 16. Approval of change order number 2, exterior repairs, Caffrey Towers, project 24-7, exhibit M in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
This one goes the other way. So, Mr. Barry, I'll let you speak to this.
Yes, it does. As we began the project at the balconies, we called for them to power wash a coating that was on it from a previous project. In taking off the coating, it exposed a lot more damage that was not able to be seen previous. There's been a significant amount of increase of patchwork on these 4 zones. We are obviously keeping a tight watch on it. We're back and forth. We're doing multiple inspections on these balconies at a time, which we normally wouldn't have. The zones 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, if you look, there's a dollar value to them. They're all, especially zone 1 was almost $58,000.
Yeah.
We're in zone 6 and 7. 5 and 6, sorry. And we're not even at 8,000 for the 2 of those zones. You'll see it's that much of a drop off because of the area and what the coatings were happening on those sections. We're back and forth on the numbers, back and forth on the dollar values. It's amazing how much time you can spend on looking at balconies and, measuring square footage. We would though recommend to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $135,884.90 to Chapman Waterproof Company of 620 South Street, Unit E, Holbrook, Mass. For the above mentioned project.
One question, Mr. Barry,
Yes,
page 2.
Yep.
Clean up after tenant dog feces, unit 635 and 737.
yeah, there was 2, we've had 2, actually, a third one now. Residents that are, we have to keep the residents off the balconies while we're doing this work and the coatings and such. 2 residents have had their dogs let out onto the balcony to use it to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
And
Kidding.
no, so it's obvious done at the nighttime or once they're gone, and they just have them use the balcony and just leave it. So one person tried washing it, and what it did is it went down. He was on the 6th floor, I believe it was, and it went down all the way to the 1st floor.
Yeah.
So they had to wash not only the 6th, but they had to wash all the way down the 1st floor so they could coat them. So we have put these bills to those residents. What happens from there, I'm not sure. So
Tom, can something be done about that? There's $1,000 for cleaning up after a dog.
Yes, the resident will be charged. They'll be conferenced. I shouldn't say they'll be charged. They'll be conferenced And then it will be determined whether it's a legitimate charge, and if it is, it will be put on their bill, and we will make arrangements for it to be paid. This is, we do this on a regular basis. Dog feces is one of the biggest headaches we have. Carol could say from the RAB meeting how many times it comes up. And we charge, so if they do it on the lawn out front, we have to pick it up, we charge $15 to pick it up. And counsel the resident on it.
But if it's on the back porch, it's $663.
No, because it did damage to the work they did. They just, think about wet cement, walking through wet cement. Well, this was wet surface that they shouldn't have been out there anyways, and they let their dog out there who did his business.
What it ends up being is all the access to is from the outside. So now you got a laborer, union laborer, a union mechanic. They're using the man lifts, aerial man lifts. They're, and just, once you put an hour to one guy and an hour and a half to another guy on union rates or prevailing wages, it just goes right up.
We
I
do.
can testify to that. Because I know what Chris is talking about directly. I can look right on to where the dog goes from my balcony. So
Wow,
I
I
know it
never heard
happens.
of such a thing. We need a motion, item 16.
Motion to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $135,884.90 to the contract with Chapman Waterproofing Company of Holbrook, Mass. For the exterior repairs at Caffrey Towers, project 24-7.
Second,
A motion has been made by Commissioner Carol Roberts, seconded by Commissioner Janet Trask. Motion is to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $135,884.90 to the contract with Chapman Waterproofing Company of Holbrook, Mass. for the exterior repairs at Caffrey Towers, project 24-7. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
yes,
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Commissioner Texera,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes,
and Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 17, award of contract, indefinite quantity architectural and engineering services, exhibit N in your packets. Mr. Tebow?
I could ask Mr. Barry to speak on this, please.
Yeah, capital improvements has gone out once again for a indefinite quantity for architects and engineers. The RFP is to select 3 firms for a 2-year contract with an option of a board-approved 3rd year for being available for any variety of projects, such as we have some access, ADA access work that's going to be done. We have some windows that need to be replaced. We have asphalt work that has to be done. A number of items we have coming up. So we've selected, going out to select 3 engineers or architects. What we've done is through a reviewing committee with Mr. Tebow, Ms. Mazzito, and myself, ranked and examined 6 proposals based on the demonstrated experience of their public housing work. And after the proposals have been ranked, references checked, the committee has selected 3 firms to be that were responsible. The 3 are McKinnell and Taylor, Angelo Parakides Architect, and TBA Architects Incorporated. Have the qualification to perform the task of the outline in the RFP. We would recommend awarding indefinite quantity contracts for 2 years with an option of a 3rd year to McKinnell Taylor, Angelo Parakides Architects, and TBA Architects.
One question, Mr. Barry. this RFP doesn't have to go to the low bidder?
No, the low bidder is not even thought about as a low bidder on an RFP. It's actually against the law. RFPs are based on their qualifications and their capabilities. What will happen on this is we'll take these, and all these projects will be given a scope of work to them and presented to each one of them. They will then take and give us a price for it. We will then look at the price at that time, but not during the actual bidding or requesting of proposals from them. It's only after we award and then we look at their proposals that you go. These are actually, at that time, they're actually negotiable. What they give us is hourly rates for the different, say, an architect who needs an electrical engineer will give us his price with the electrical engineer as a different price as well, so.
It isn't up to us to go to the low bidder. You just pick whoever you want. Is that how it works?
We don't give it to anyone. It's just, we have to go by what their qualifications are. If someone has never done any public work, they're not going to get the job. Simple as that. They're not going to get, until they start doing jobs such as showing that they do public work with housing authorities. They'll never get in, they have to work their way in basically for the RFP.
When we put the request for proposals out, we ask them to answer a number of questions and provide information about work they've done in the past, recommendations, how accurate they are on coming in on budget, that type of things. Then we review how good their work is. We then interview the top firms, ask them more questions, and then the top three are presented. Once, if the board hires them as on, let's say they're on retainer to work for the housing authority, except they don't get any money. And Chris has a job, he wants to do, I'll say a courtyard, and he needs it designed. He would say, here's the scope of services I want. The three of you, give me a price on what you could bring in the design features for. And he would go with the low bid at that time. And as he said, if for some reason he thought that was how he could even negotiate at that time and bring it down, which is unique in public bidding.
I actually had the Attorney General call us on this RFP because one of the pages actually said to submit the fee proposal. I missed it somehow. I think it may have been the advertisement. And she called me and told me, you can't do it. So we actually put out an addendum to delete that term because you cannot ask for an RFP.
One question, Tom or Chris, either one. When you finally pick an architect, does that come back to us then? We pick the low bidder? Or are we completely out of it now?
No, so we usually bring big projects to you. This is for small projects. It's like hiring an attorney. You've hired 3 attorneys. We use Quirk and Keonis, Clark Boney and Gilday, and the one in Quincy. But when things come up, you've already hired them. We call them depending on what the issue is and have them do the work. So this is because we don't have architects and engineers working for the housing authority. These are people we can call when we need these services for small jobs.
The reason why I asked Tom, we're put here by the mayor, 4 of us, and one's by the governor, but we're supposed to be looking for the low bids. This is a roundabout way going around that process.
No,
In other words, you don't need us.
No, not at all. That's not true. There are certain, this is in the law. Lawyers, educators, architects and engineers are to be hired using a request for proposals. That's in the law. You can't just go out and do low bid because right now we don't have a scope of services we could give to them. I don't know, Tom, do you have anything else to add to that?
Sure. Tim, the law allows procurement or requires procurement in 2 different ways. So if it's a construction job, it's low bid. But if it's things that are requiring thought and whatever, like lawyers or architects, you want to make sure that you're not hiring the low bid. You're not hiring the guy just out of law school to represent us in a case that's never represented housing authorities before. So you put out what's called a request for proposals, and without looking at the price, you determine their qualifications, if they're qualified to do the job. And then you pick the most qualified, and then you open the prices. The prices don't come into it. We do low bid on all construction contracts on, the hammering of the nails and the soldering of the pipes. That's what the law requires. But for things where it's thought-based, you're not going to hire, if you're going to get a doctor, you're not hiring the cheapest doctor. That's not how you're picking it. You're going to hire the best one, right? The one who
I'm
can do
hiring
the
the
job.
cheapest, Tom.
Huh?
I hire the cheapest.
You're not going to hire one that doesn't know it. So we're not going to hire the cheapest lawyer who's never represented a housing authority, who doesn't know anything about labor law, to come represent us in a case. We're going to hire ones that have represented housing authorities, that do labor law every day. That's what we're going to do. So the
Tom,
law
it just seems to
allows,
me that you're taking the work away from the board. You're doing it yourself. And so you really don't
well,
need us
that's
anymore.
that's not what I'm saying. What
No,
That's what this
we
says,
do
Tom.
is that we put before you that here is a company. It's not on the low bid. And here are their qualifications. And if you don't like their qualifications, or you don't agree with whether it's Mr. Tebow or me or Mr. Barry, that these people have the best qualifications, then you don't have to hire them. But we're doing the background work, the same as Chris does with bids. He does all the background work and then presents it to you.
I already asked that question, Tom. I said, does it come back to us as a low bidder? And the answer was no.
It's not low bid, Tim. We don't do low bid on these types of cases, okay?
The construction projects will come back to you as low bid for these architects. So any of the projects that these architects design and put out to bid, that award for that construction contract will be going before the board as a low bid for the construction part of it.
If I could give another analogy, even if we did it on low bid, say we've hired electricians on low bid, and we have 3 electricians that we can send work out to, because we have electrical work that needs to be done all the time that our maintenance crew can't do. So we call the electricians, we say, hey, we got something that needs to be done, or a plumber's even better. We need a boiler installed. How much will you charge us? And they say it's going to be $5,000. We say, okay, that's accurate. And we put it out and they do it. We don't come back to the board. The board has already approved the contract to use this vendor for regular maintenance stuff. And that's what this is. It's regular maintenance type issues that need an architect or an engineer. But it doesn't subvert the board. As Chris said, if they put it out to bid and it comes in, we get the low bidder, we bring it back to the board for the job.
We need a motion, item 17. From
Make
anybody?
a motion to award a 2-year contract with an option for a 3rd year to McKinnell, and Taylor, Angelo A. Cariakitis, Architect and TBA Architects for indefinite quantity architectural and engineering services.
second,
A motion has been made by Commissioner Janet Trask, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford. Motion is to award a 2-year contract with an option for a 3rd year to McKinnell and Taylor, Angelo Cariakides, Architect, and TBA Architects for indefinite quantity architectural and engineering services. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 18. Approval of addendum 1, drainage and site improvements, Campello High Rise, project 24-6, Exhibit O in your packets. Mr. Tebow.
You can see Mr. Barry was busy in December. If I could ask him to speak on this item.
Yes, so with the authority looking, had made some expansion of the scope of work at Campello High Rise for the regrading of the front parking area, which ended up increasing the amount of work, obviously, by having to lower the walkway coming in from the parking lot in front of all the handicap stalls there. And it also required each of the ramps out of the stalls to be redone as well. Under the indefinite quantity, Angelo's Caracades had put in for an extension or extra services, I should say. And under his indefinite quantity contract, it required him to carry an additional 10% of construction admin for any additional services. With that being said, we took his additional services and reduced it by 10%. We would recommend the amendment, approval of amendment number 1 to Angela Caracades, architect, in the amount of $1,998 for additional services at 24-6 Campello High Rise Drain and Site Improvements Project.
We need a motion, item 18.
I make a motion to approve addendum number 1 in the amount of $1,998 to the contract with Angelo A. Ariakidis, architect, for additional services for drainage and site improvements at Campello High Rise Project 24-6.
second,
A motion has been made by Commissioner Janet Trask, seconded by Commissioner Carol Roberts. Motion is to approve addendum number 1 in the amount of $1,998 even to the contract with Angelo A. Kyriakides, architect, for additional services for drainage and site improvements at Campello High Rise, project 24-6. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Trask,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
yes,
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Item 19,
Thank you.
review of Campello High Rise, Section 18 deposition, executive summary, existing conditions and scope of required repairs. Exhibit P in your packets. Mr. Tebow.
If I could talk, I'd like to give a little history to this building because I don't know how much any one board member knows about this. The Campbell High Rise started out, was built in the early 1970s. It was bought in 68. And it was bought by a firm that developed it as a turnkey development. In other words, they did all the work. And then they sold it to the Housing Authority. When that happened, the Housing Authority refused to take it because they said it wasn't built the right way. They said the concrete wasn't poured the right way. They said some of the framing wasn't done. The metal framing wasn't connected the way it should have been. I have all those board notes. Susan made copies of those for a while back. I have actually a couple of years worth of newspaper articles on it. So it was a troubled building from the beginning. In fact, Mr. Peralt and then Vinnie DeChristopher can tell you that's where Vinnie started. It was brand new. That when it started, water was pouring out of it the very first year. All the pipes froze in the stairwells. They had to re-caulk the building because it was leaking. That's what the big thick caulking that you see going down that building. HUD did a review in around the turn of the century of it, a guy by the name of Dwight Ebert, and he came in and he said, you got a problem here. I see just from my cursory review, you have about $16 million worth of capital improvements that need to be made, and you're only getting about $1.8 million a year. So that's going to take you, if you put the money nowhere else, it's going to take you 8 years to get through it, and the rest of your place will have to be neglected. Then we had Cornerstone Consultants come in. They took a look at it, said, boy, you need to do something here. In fact, they originally proposed to do a Hope 6 type work there where they would tear down half the towers, tear it down from 10 floors to 5 floors, and then rebuild the things somewhere else. But at the last minute, they switched to Crescent Court because HUD said, no, we're not going to touch any elderly housing with this program. Then we were desperate to fix some of the windows. I don't know if you recall, the doors, the sliding doors on the building would not open, they would fail, which is a tremendous safety risk to the resident. That's their second means of egress. So we went out and we did an energy service contract, and we were able to replace all the doors and windows in every single apartment. And we just barely got through that. Then something, when I came on, as you know, we had tremendous issues with elevators in all our high rises. In fact, the elevator at Bel Air High Rise failed. No good. We had to replace it. So we worked through another energy service contract to replace all the elevators in all of our buildings because they just weren't functioning. Now it's the time for Campello. We're looking for different ways to get money to do it. We can't use energy service contracts anymore. Our capital fund, it just can't keep up to it. We met with HUD. HUD suggested we look into doing this. They call it repositioning, and there are many different things you can do with repositioning. So we hired Cambridge, and we hired Cambridge Housing Authority because they've done this for years now, since 2012. And they've done over $1 billion worth of capital improvements to their elderly housing using these type of programs. Part of the issue, the first thing you have to do is a capital needs analysis. We hired a company to come in, and engineers and architects, and to do that. And they have gone through, and that's the report that I gave you. Some of the things we can't change, right? They built it in a floodplain. So we know we've had flooding. Back in 2005, we almost lost the B building. We had to sandbag it. And the thing that's really horrible about that is if it does flood, all the electrical systems, the huge electrical systems for this, these buildings are on the first floor. If that happened, we would have to shut the place down for months and months and months. And I don't know where we'd put the people. That's an issue we just have to deal with one way or another. We do work with the city on making sure the river is cleaned so that it doesn't back up as much. But if we have some real bad times, that could happen. And then there's just if you look at the building, the siding's falling off. The balconies were put on afterwards. They are not part of the building. If in your building, Carol, the negative part about it being part of your building is when the water lays there, it will come inside. That's your problem, part of your problem. But it's much safer. It's part of the slab that goes throughout the building. At Campello, those are separate little towers that are attached to the building, and those are failing on a regular basis. So we have to monitor those. There's the kitchens and baths they talk about are in terrible condition. They wouldn't meet current standards.
My hearing getting worse. Sometimes they talk, they can hear it.
1 second.
I can't hear Tom. Because I shut this off. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm not loud.
Is someone talking? No, I'm sorry. So as we go through it, I did an executive summary. There's the whole report. If we were to, they came up with about $71 million of capital needs that need to be done within the next 3 years. If we use the money that comes into the Housing Authority for capital, that would take us about 30 years to do. without touching anything else, without, going to any of our other federal sites. The initial construction, we have done some selective demolition. They have basically confirmed that some of the makeup joints in the building are not done the way they're supposed to be. So think about, you see the old pictures of the iron workers bringing things together, riveting it together. They didn't do that right. So the building is in need of some significant improvements. If we're successful, and this is not a guarantee, this would bring tens of millions of dollars to the housing authority that we could use to make improvements to the property. What we're doing is, the proposal is to change it from Section 9 money, that's public housing, to Section 8 money. Now, everybody knows Section 8, that you get a voucher, you go wherever you are. Well, the Hamilton Wade House has Section 8 money. That's what they use to do that. The Corcoran over by City Hall, that's Section 8 money. It doesn't go anywhere, it just supports the building. It supports the building at a rate of about 40 to 45% more than we get for public housing. So when you go over to the Hamilton Wade House, and I don't know if any of you have been there, you see nicer apartments, you see nicer lobbies, you see better maintenance because they get significantly more money. And that's what we would like to be what HUD calls that platform, that Section 8 platform. Right now, we get about $700 per unit per month. That includes the capital money and the operating money. This would bring it up over $1,000 a month for each apartment each month. So you can see it's a significant increase. We're in a public part of this. We have put out a draft plan. It's on our website. We have down at the Campello High Rise, we have posters in the lobby, both lobbies. We have newsletters that we've handed out in 3 different languages. We have done a conference call with the tenant leaders down there. And so we're getting real positive stuff. But the bottom line is the Campello High Rise is in desperate need of a lot of capital improvements. And we need to find a way to find the money to do that. Right now, this is the vehicle that will allow us to do it. So I wanted to put in front of you, it's an awful lot of information. I've read through this multiple times. I know Chris has. Chris and Nancy have been down there on a regular basis going through it. We're trying to get the information out to people. We have shared this information with our state delegation, the elected officials who represent that, including Stu Castro, the mayor, Senator Brady, and Representative Cassidy, who all have looked into it and supported it. Councilor Nicastro's husband works in development, works with the Cambridge Housing Authority, and is knows about the programs and what they've been doing there. So it's again, if we do this, if we're successful, it would be the biggest thing the Housing Authority has done since we built the last high rise in 1973.
Just a question, Tom.
Yes, please.
I read a little bit of it, but it seems like the building's not even safe to let somebody walk through the doors. Never mind live there.
So it does read like that, and a lot of those things that it says are absolutely true, but don't need to be upgraded because we're not doing the work. So there's a lot of fire suppression, fire systems, that kind of stuff in there. If we don't touch it, the code says it's all right. If we touch it, if we start doing work, they're saying, hey, no, you need to repair this and bring it up to 2022 standards. If you brought a building inspector in there today, they'd look at some of those code enforcement issues. They'd say, okay, yeah, if you start doing work, and what's the threshold, Chris? Do you know how much money, what percentage?
It just depends on each code. Once we hit, if we're gonna do 25%, is gonna start hitting out a lot of the code requirements.
Okay, 25% of the value of the building, if we're, that we'd be doing, then all those code requirements go in. And we're looking at doing work that is up to 72% of the value of the building. So those questions, Commissioner Sullivan, were the very first things that I asked when it came back. I said, oh my God, what do we have here? And we've had long discussions about it. But there are things that, okay, if you're in one building over another, you're safer in a newer building than you are in an older building, because the codes just weren't there in the past.
And everybody, I'm sorry, but I've got to go.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Janet. Again, this is, by the way, there is a public meeting for any comment that will be done on March 16th, that's March, I'm sorry, February 16th at 5 p.m. I will send that out to you if you'd like to attend. It's not a board meeting. It's just one to bring in comment. Once we get those comments, we would bring it to the board, but you're certainly welcome to see what we have. Obviously, I would like to be doing this in a non-COVID time, because we would be down at the high rise on a regular basis, asking people to come in. I can tell you the concerns of the residents we've had so far. Do I have to move? The answer is no. You do not have to move. Will my rent be the same? Yes. The only time, what we would do, and Carol, I don't know if you've been through this, I can't tell if you have a newer apartment or not. If you get your apartment done over, we move the person to a hotel unit while their unit is being done over, and we move them back in. If they at that time said to us, hey, I want to move to another building, we can entertain that. We can do more transfers than we would normally do, because we need vacant units at the building, obviously, to do the construction. This would be construction tearing down to, a gut rehab on it, right down to the external. In fact, we're looking to replace the external walls too, right?
Platinum. Going
Yeah.
on, yes.
Yeah. So in the end, it'll be a beautiful place to live if we're successful. There's been a lot of good things that have happened. They just passed a law that allowed for 4% tax credits to be stabilized. That will bring billions of dollars into the affordable housing world, and we could access those. I did talk to Jerry Nadeau about this. Jerry is the president of Rockland, Savings Bank. And Jerry's bank is working with Cambridge. They're part of the consortium of banks who've been lending the money to them. So he was very excited about it. In fact, he knew, I was surprised, the story, a lot of the story behind the Campello high rise and how it was built and the problems they had at the very beginning. So he had a history on it. So there's a market out there to bring the money in. And the way we get the money, we get the extra $300 per unit per month. And we say to a bank, hey, we got this extra money. Will you loan us the money to do the work that we need to do with that $300, extra $300 as the collateral? And, doing that thing, we believe we can bring in somewhere between 50 and $100 million.
Tom, when you say if we're successful, what do you mean? Turn it into a Section 18 building? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean successful?
So we put an application in, and we haven't submitted the application. That the application will be brought to you at your next meeting, and the board has to approve it. They don't have to. No, the board has to approve it for it to be sent. You don't have to approve it. Once it's sent, there's a special application center, and the special application center reviews it, and they say, and I've been told by the Cambridge Housing Authority, they will challenge every statement you make. They'll say, you said it's going to cost $10 million to do this amount of work. We think it's more like 5 million. And then you have to back up all your numbers. And that's why the engineers and architects are there. Obviously, if you can't back them up, they turn down your application. But we're very sure about that. We've had not only the engineer and architect do it, but then we're having all their numbers checked by a third party to make sure that's a very strong application. But they don't have to approve it. They're encouraging it. They know they can't take care of these buildings. They know that overall that the public housing stock in this country is way behind on its capital needs, and that they're just looking for it. So this is creative people in Congress saying, hey, we'll allow housing authorities to do these things to address the issues we know they have. Catherine Clark, Congressman Catherine Clark, I did go to Cambridge in October, and she did a presentation there on it, what she's doing in Congress, working with the tax credits. But she is a leader. I don't know if you know her. She's the vice, it's not the majority whip. She is the vice Speaker of the House. And she is really behind this type of program to try to get money to address the capital needs of public housing.
Trump, what I was driving at, there's a chance that we could get turned down?
Yes.
What do we do then?
Then we have to, so we look at other methods, maybe tax credits without this Section 18, maybe just a regular RAD. So we're going for the one that gives you the most money, right? There's multiple different ways to do this. And it gets really complicated. But, from the big point, so we're Section 18, they give you the most amount of money. There's another program where they will allow you to do some Section 18 and some not, where they just give you a lower amount for some units and a higher amount for some. That's called a mix, a blend. And then there's one that they just call RAD, rental assistance demonstration, and you get a lower amount. So we're trying for the higher amount. So the answer would be, we'd have to take a look at what our options are. We would have to say, okay, take a look at this list. What needs to be done now? What can we not, ignore this year? And how much money does that cost? And how do we get there? That would be if they said no. And I just keep, I say that, and I've said it to the residents, I've said it to anybody, listen, this is not a done deal, even putting the application in if they say yes. I have spoken to our HUD Boston office about it. They're excited. I told them the Dwight Ebert story. They said, yes, they still have those records. They know. I don't think this is too much. Dwight Ebert renamed Campello. So it's Campello, right? He came back and he had quite a little sense of humor. He called it Camp Hellhole. And the reason he said that is you got a place that's going to suck up a lot of money. And that's what Cornerstone said. And now that's what this place is saying. So we need to figure out a way. Remember, the first thing we started to do was elevators. We need to figure a way to get the people up and down, because in a high-rise building, you don't have elevators. It's no good for anybody who's elderly or disabled. And now we have to figure out a way to address these long-standing issues. Like I said, the day that this was built, it had the issue with the river. Why they did that, I have no idea. Why they didn't address that in construction makes no sense whatsoever.
Two more questions, Tom.
Please.
Do you have the amount of what it cost to build those buildings when they were brand new?
Yes, I do. I can make copies of the newspaper articles or the board members, I think, but it's 5 million maybe. But I can get the number for you.
Right around 5.5, 6 million, I think it was.
And the value of it now is 100 million. I think I have it in here. I know it's in here. And by the way, they call it total development cost. They have, there's a book they use, when I say they, HUD, and you apply that to the building, and they come up with a total development cost. And is it in here? Do you remember what that, Chris, is?
No, I don't.
It's up around $100 million, the total development cost. So if we were to build it today, it would cost 100 million. You couldn't build it today though, because the environmental laws would say you can't put it in that floodplain.
The other question is, what did it cost to get this report done?
$15,000 maybe.
It's the most extensive report I've ever seen.
Yes, it is extensive. It's a top of the line company. Again, they're the company that Cambridge uses. And Cambridge has been very successful. Cambridge is a national, in fact, if you heard about New York City having problems with their housing, they sent the New York City Housing Authority top people to the Cambridge Housing Authority to learn about how to run a housing authority. Mike Johnston, who runs the housing authority, who grew up, I wish Janet was here, who grew up on Campbell Street in Brockton, said that a bus came in from New York with all their people on it and went through it to show them how to do this type of work to address the issues they have.
That building was built in 1972.
72, it was 71, 70, maybe 70, 71, 72. First people moved in the January of 73. I got a picture of Hugh Peralt with all his hair, dark hair, talking to a new resident moving in. It was in
Wow.
it was in the newspaper. But yeah, so it has quite a history, but it needs a lot of work now, and it's really up to us to find a creative way to do that. And the people down there, you know, if you talk to them, they're going to tell you, there's nothing we're telling them that they don't know.
Just one question. It seems to be that the floodplain, I guess that Salisbury Brook is right behind us.
Yes.
Isn't that the city's responsibility to straighten that out?
So they make sure it's cleaned up. You know, we've had problems before because rubbish and usually shopping carts get, you know, clogged up in there. Yes, but they do that now. They've been very good at cleaning that river out. But as you know, it's all caused by Westgate Mall, where they paved the swamp. All the water that would just go into the ground up there now floods through the city, and that's why they had to buy properties on Belmont Avenue and make that into open space. And the places it floods in Campello B, you go down this spring if you want, go down and, you know, after we've had some good rain and see how close it comes up to the building, up to the edge, and you have a good year, it gets scary. I have a picture of Susan's in it, and they're all standing out in front, and there's sandbags there, and whatever, you know, what's happening back in 2005. It's not a good situation, and I hope talking about it's not going to cause a bad
I
problem.
know.
It just makes it scary, Tom.
It is. Mr. Chairman, you were there when we had the problem with the pipe freezing in the electrical room, right? And Mayor Carpenter was saying, hey, we might have to empty this building. And there were a bunch of people on phones trying to find hotel rooms. That would be hotel rooms for what? A week, maybe? If this happened, it would be hotel rooms or whatever for months.
Forever.
So,
Tom too.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
This is something we don't take any action on.
no, this is discussion, right? Exactly.
How's if we get lucky enough to get 71 million?
Yes.
If we're lucky enough to get 71 million to invest into this two building in Campello, how's the structure of the building itself?
Not good. No, so the structure of the building, part of the money that's going there would be to make the structure of the building better.
Oh,
The building sways now. I was there when they were doing the parking lots over. I was in someone's apartment doing some paperwork, and the chandelier they had was swaying like this. I actually called down to the Capitol Department and said, hey, what's happening there? It's been safe. It's been determined, it's not going to fall down, but if you built a building today, you would never do it like they did back in that day. It wasn't built great in that period of time.
how can we replace the structure of the building while the building is still up?
So what we're gonna do is bring it down to the gut rehab. And the reason the structure is not great is because there are makeup joints. Am I using the right term, Chris? There are makeup joints where the beams come together that weren't made up properly. Maybe there should be, I'm gonna use rivets. Maybe there should be 45 rivets in it, and there's 10. So they would strengthen those makeup joints. They would also, then once they do that, by the way, they have to come to the 2021, 22, 23, whenever we're doing it, earthquake standards. So they would then again reinforce that. They would do that even if the structure was good. They'd have to bring the standards up for earthquake, the current earthquake standards.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
I do want to, Commissioner Sullivan, you sat in on the plans as we went through Crescent Court. Crescent Court had to have earthquake improvements, correct, Chris?
Yes, to the floor joist, to the brick walls and the dividing walls, yes.
Yeah, so when you do major construction like that, you have to bring it up. So it's expensive, but in the end, it's very good.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Anything else, Tom or Chris?
Nope.
For now?
No, next month.
Yeah, in between, please, if you have any questions, please call me a one-on-one if you want. We can go down and walk through or walk around the building if you're comfortable with it. So any questions you have on it, please don't hesitate to call myself or Chris, and we'll go from there.
Just one question, Tom, on the February 16th. What's the time with this? Do you have what's going to happen? Is that a Zoom meeting?
It's a Zoom meeting, 5 o'clock. I've asked Melissa O'Malley to get as many residents, try to get some residents who are comfortable on Zoom onto it so they can ask some questions. Yesterday, the BRA did it for one of their plans. They did a Zoom. It's the final, for 30 days, people can make comment, and they are making comments. We're getting those now. They're coming through the building. But this is the final thing, where we say, okay, any more comments? And it was sort of the end of the comment period.
Will you get us the Zoom numbers to get in so we can get on?
I'll send them to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else on item 19? And there's no action being taken. Item 20, old business. I had one item on old business. The last meeting, December 10th, 2020, we tabled an item. It was item E at the time, to do with plot number 9 on Newbury Street. The motion was put on the table. A motion was made and it was put on the table. I'm asking now to have it taken off the table. So I need a motion for that.
I'd like to make a motion on that, Commissioner.
Second.
We have a motion has been made by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford, seconded by Commissioner David Trask,
David
to
Trask.
take item E from the December 10th, 2020 meeting off the table. Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes,
and Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes. And on that same item, I need a new motion to have the chair work with the mayor to settle plot 9 on Newbury Street.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead,
Is
go
that
ahead.
to settle,
Mr. Sullivan?
plot 9?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we put that in the hands of our chairman and the mayor.
Second it.
And we need a second. A motion has been made by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford, seconded by Commissioner David Texera. Motion is to have the chair work with the mayor and settle plot 9 on Newbury Street. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, Mr. Tebow?
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes,
and Commissioner Roberts,
yes,
and Commissioner Sullivan. Can I make one amendment for the record? I've done this before the roll call. It would be to, if you settle it, that you could transfer the property back. You have the authority to transfer the property back to the city.
Okay,
So the motion would be as amended, motion to allow the chairman to work with the mayor, and if settled, to transfer plot 9
back to the city.
back to the city.
yeah.
Could I have a motion on that?
I'll make a
Ernie.
motion.
David, to
No, Ernie, go
go
ahead.
with the amendment.
okay, I make a motion that we turn the property back over to the city. That's lot 9, I think it is.
Yes, David, second on that?
Second it.
That's the amendment, Tom, to the motion.
Correct.
Do you need a second roll call?
Yes, yes.
A roll call, Mr. Tebow, on the amendment to the first motion?
Thank you. Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes,
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes,
and Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes, that was a yes on both of those, Sue? Because
Yeah.
I got cut off. Any other old business? From anybody? Item 21, new business.
I have one item, Mr. Chairman. Could I ask Mr. Welsh to speak for a moment? We have had a vaccination, a COVID vaccination clinic here today, starting at 1 o'clock that he is overseeing. If you'd just let the board know a little bit about that, Mr. Welsh?
Sure. First of all, for the very first attempt, I think it went very, very smoothly. Thanks to Vinny and his crew that set up the community room to make sure we could have everybody socially distanced and get registered and so forth. The last time I was down the hall, they had vaccinated 28 people, and there were 4 or 5 people still left on the list. So hopefully, when I run down after this meeting, they will have done hopefully over 30, which is wonderful. The staff from the neighborhood health center could not have been better. They were so professional. They were so respectful. They took time with every single resident to make sure all their questions were answered, and they had many questions about after effects, side effects, when they were going to come back. It was the Moderna vaccine, so it's excuse me, the date that they'll come back is February 28th, I believe. And the nurse manager who's here said that they would be coming back here to do the follow-up. So everybody will get their second shot here. There were a few housekeeping issues. I had to remind people maybe 20 or 25 times to socially distance. We got started a little bit late, so the line in the hallway got a little bit longer than I would have liked. But everybody, they were cooperative and patient, and so I think it went extremely well. And I could not say enough good things about the staff at the neighborhood health center. They were just absolutely wonderful.
If I could just take off on that for a second, where the residents of public housing are not supposed to start getting vaccinations until the end of February. Fred reached out to the neighborhood health center. They said, no, we want to work with these people. So we're starting early. The biggest issue is they're not getting the vaccine, but we got some information today on how the housing authority can steer some vaccine to the housing authority. We're working with the Department of Elder Affairs. Carol will be coming over to Caffrey Towers. We'll be going everywhere. We've given all the addresses to the neighborhood health center. But this is a huge step in the right direction. And hopefully, by sometime in mid-March, we'll have all of our people who want to be vaccinated. We got the call about 24 hours ago, maybe 40 hours ago, to say that they'd be here. And so we had to get it up and going. So that's why it's around 30. Each vial comes in with 11 doses in it. And so they won't open up another vial if you don't have another 11 people there. They don't want to waste it. So it's there's a lot of logistics. It's once they open it, it's only good for 6 hours. So but our residents have been great. Linda Dower did all the data entry into the system so that the people could walk in and they were known. They had their insurance stuff. That was done, overnight in the morning. So we are moving on that. I'm real happy about that. Things aren't good in our buildings with COVID. Carol knows that. She's lost some people over at Caffrey Towers, Bel Air Towers. We've lost some people recently. So this is really, the quicker we can do it, the better. Our residents have been suffering for a long time, stuck in their little apartments, and especially in the winter. And this is a real step forward. And Fred has done a great job working with the neighborhood. And the reason they came over so quickly is because of the relationship that Fred and the Housing Authority have developed with the Neighborhood Health Center.
Just one question, Fred.
Sure.
I know the 30 or 33 is not the complete building, and they're coming back on February 28th for the second shot. What about the
Yes.
first shot for the rest of the people?
Well, anybody who didn't get it, we had a number of people who you know, Mr. Tebow sent out a one call and also applications to every single apartment. And some people didn't get it in on time. They needed the count by 11 o'clock this morning in order to start at 1. So I've asked Jennifer, the nurse manager, to, she's going to give me back all those applications that they didn't have enough vaccine for today, and then we'll schedule. We'll probably do another request, you know, of everybody who wants it here, and then we'll get those people who did submit the application but didn't get the dose today. We'll get them back to get it then.
Yeah. I do want to say very directly, Sue Joss, the executive director of the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center, said we will keep coming. Hopefully we'll get more vaccine, but as we get it, we're coming. So there are limits on it. As you know, I think tomorrow at the school department, they're doing 200. They have 200 vaccinations they'll be doing in the red building. And then obviously the teachers want the vaccinations available to them to come in. So the supply is the issue right now. We're ready on the ground. The housing authority is ahead of everybody else, which is good. And that's, you know, we're working right now to talk to all of our residents to get the information we need and try to convince them. Carol, we'll be talking to you, any centers of influence that we can have. A lot of people have said, you know, I have heart problems. I don't know if I should do it. And then they call the doctor and the doctor says, you should do it because you have heart problems. I have breathing problems. I don't know if I should do it. And that's the same thing. So the education is really important that we get it out there. You know, get as many people, because it's safe. It makes it a safer place for them to live. It makes it a safer place for our employees to work.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've had tenants who want to know where could they register online? Could I register them online to get the shot? And I said, no, housing is going to do something a little different. Everybody will be notified when and where and what to do. And so they've calmed down somewhat.
Yeah. Hey, if anybody can get the shot before us, tell them to get it.
Well, yeah, but getting online is,
Yeah, it's impossible right now.
it's a mess.
I think we'll have it for them better beforehand. But we're telling our employees, by the way, our employees can get the vaccination also. But tomorrow I'll be sending something out to all of our employees saying, look, you know, you can participate in this after our residents are taken care of. Or if you can, you know, if you can get somewhere else. If, for example, they say CVS is going to be doing it, you can show up with your pay stub or your ID and they will allow you to go in this phase. But so you will be getting notices at the beginning of next week to fill out registration forms, Carol, as will everybody else in all of our elderly developments.
Okay. I'll let them know. And
Fred, I just wanted to make one statement. The Brockton Public Schools bought a freezer that goes 92 degrees below zero. I had never even heard of it before. But if Neighborhood Health says, oh, we haven't got a freezer to store the stuff, there is one at Brockton High School. They bought it, it used CARES Act money to buy it, and it's in the red building at Brockton High right now.
Oh, great.
Just for later, if they said to you, we need a place to store it.
No,
You
that's
have it.
great. Thank,
That's for it. That's what they got it for, the vaccine.
great.
Was that new business?
That was new business, yes.
Is there any other new business? Item 22. Adjournment. We needed a motion from somebody.
I make a motion.
Don't jump off quick. We've got to do a roll call.
Commissioner Texera made a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
A motion has been made by Commissioner David Texera, seconded by Commissioner Ernest Pettiford. Motion is to adjourn. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Tebow.
Commissioner Texera,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
yes.
Commissioner Pettiford,
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Yes. Janet Trask, I see is back.
No, she's been down there the whole time, so she could see us. I don't know what happened at her house. She had to leave for some reason, so she's not with us
Okay.
anymore. It's just left open. She left that portal open.
Okay. We can sign off now.
All right, well,
Have a
thank
good
you.
day, everybody.
I appreciate
Happy New
all
Year.
your time.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.